السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. Brothers and elders, mothers and sisters in Islam, it is my honor to be here with you tonight in this beautiful house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is always a pleasure to be here. Alhamdulillah, one of the, mashallah, foundations and the pillars of the Muslim community, Jamaica Muslim Center. May Allah bless this place as the source of hidayat and guidance for the entire humanity, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserve and protect our brothers and sisters who are, mashallah, involved in this institution and serving the humanity in so many ways. May Allah bless all of you and reward you and allow our gathering here tonight to be blessed and noble and a means and a source of goodness for all of us. I would like to also thank Brother Sami for making this possible and connecting us together through Guidance Residential tonight. Brothers and sisters, the topic that I want to share with you tonight, and inshallah I'll have Brother Sami inshallah join us in just a few moments where he will be speaking about the practical elements of this, but in general, the Islamic perspective of our lives. And I want you to think about this. For all of you who are here, brothers and sisters, and for those who are joining us online, one of the biggest misconceptions that we have as Muslims is that we think that our deen and our Islam is just the four walls of the masjid. That's what we think today. That as soon as I enter inside this masjid, I turn on the Islam mode. And when I go outside this masjid, I can do whatever I want. Or we limit our religion and our deen to anything that happens in the surroundings of the masjid. But we tend to forget that there is a greater responsibility for us as Muslims. We are Muslims even when we are home. For our young ones, you are Muslim even when you are in your schools and your colleges. For our brothers and sisters who work in the corporate world in their jobs, when you are at your jobs, you are still a Muslim. And your Islam remains with you. And not only, and forgive me for using this word, conditional or seasonal Islam, it is every part of our lives, right? And when we look at the larger perspective of our deen and our religion, we see that our ibadah, our worship, is only a part of our faith and our deen. There are so many other components of our deen as well. And I see certain faces here and individuals, mashallah, who learn Islam and they, mashallah, study the Islamic knowledge. When you study Islamic knowledge, you find ibadat, worship, to be only a portion of Islamic law itself. You find ibadah, mu'asharat, ma'amalat, akhlaq. These are all components. What do they mean? They mean our interactions, our businesses, our transactions, our morals, our ethics, our akhlaq. All of these things combined together, they make our Islam on the day of Qiyamah. It's not only our ibadah itself, but there are multiple components combined together in our lives that make our ibadah. I have a quick question for you guys. And the question is, and for the young ones who are sitting here, I want you to participate if you can. Do you know how many questions we will have to have on the day of Qiyamah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions from the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that a person will not be able to move from their space or their place on the day of judgment until they do not answer these questions? I have a young student who has his hand up. How many? 3 are in the grave. You're correct. I wouldn't say you're wrong. You're correct. So when we are in the grave, there are 3 questions. Who's your Lord? Who's your prophet? And what's your religion? Right? And some have mentioned who's your Rabb, what's your religion and your deen, and who is this individual man, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But the hadith also mentions that no human being will be able to move on the day of Qiyamah until they do not answer 5 questions. 5 questions. Hadith of Rasulullah. And brothers and sisters, this is something that all of us will go through. There's no exemptions. There's no exemption for a scholar, for a mufti, for a hafiz, for a sayyid, for a person who has this and no. There's no exemptions. Every person has to answer 5 questions on the day of judgment, and your feet will not be able to move until you don't answer those questions. And the Prophet ﷺ mentioned those questions are, how did you spend your life? Number 1. Number 2, how did you spend your life when you were young? Even though it's a part of your life. But when you're young, you have the energy, the zeal, the pressure, the people around you. You can take over the world and you can do whatever you wish and you want to do. But subhanAllah, how did you live your life? Number 1. Number 2, how did you live your life when you were young? Number 2. Number 3, where did you earn your money from? Number 4, where did you spend your money? And last but not least, how much did you practice upon the ilm and the knowledge that Allah had given you? Brothers and sisters, 2 out of the 5 questions that we are asked on the day of Qiyamah out of our entire lives is related to our money, of where we earn and where we spend. So our deen itself is just not our salah and our prayers. It's our earning, our spending, our living, and everything that surrounds us. I was speaking to a brother of mine, a good friend, and he said that I was speaking to another scholar, and I said, can you speak to my children? Because they have been misbehaving and they don't listen to me anymore. So he said one of the scholars came to my house and began to speak to my children. And after a few minutes, my, subhanAllah, friend said, he started to cry and shed tears, and he said, stop. Don't say anything to these children. So I said, you called me and you asked me to speak to the children, and now you're asking me to not speak to them. And he said, I have been reflecting over my own lives that I nourished my children with haram all of my life. And today when I see disobedience in them, I have no one to blame except for my own self. That it was me who nourished these children upon haram that allowed them today to become disobedient to me. The only thing that I can ask Allah now is to forgive my sins and flush the haram, that I can make intention to live upon righteousness from today. Brothers and sisters, the places, the food, the environment that we provide ourselves and our families has a direct impact on our iman and the dua and the ibadah that we make. Sometimes we feel that it's okay and I can do whatever I want. Rasulullah ﷺ in one of his hadith mentioned that the dua of a traveler and a dua of a madloom, an oppressed person, is never rejected by Allah. Hadith of Sahih Muslim, authentic hadith. Dua of a traveler and dua of a person who's madloom, a person who's oppressed, is never rejected by Allah. Then Rasulullah ﷺ mentioned, this is also authentic hadith from Muslim, that there was a man who was traveling. And while traveling, he became tired. His hair became disheveled, his clothing became old, and he had dust all over his body. And he raised his hand and he said, Ya Rab, Ya Rab. Oh Allah, oh Allah. And the Prophet ﷺ said his dua did not go above his shoulder, that he was thrown back at him. The Sahaba said, Ya Rasulullah, you said that the dua of a traveler and a madloom is never rejected. But you mentioned that a man traveled and became a musafir and then cried for help, and the dua was thrown back on his face. Then the Nabi of Allah ﷺ said, Akluhu haram wa shurbuhu haram. His eating, his drinking, his wearing, and his earning was all haram. And Allah threw back this dua at his face. Brothers and sisters, today why don't we see barakah in our lives? And I want to ask you this question. Why don't we see barakah in our lives? I've heard this from my parents. For some of our elders who are sitting here will be a witness to this. That in long time, in our parents' age, the families used to be much bigger. There were many children in the household. And there was only one person earning. And everyone was happy in the house. Today the families are small. Everyone is earning, but it's still not enough. You must have heard from your own parents. 8, 9, 10, 12 children. One father working, everyone is happy. Everyone eats, everyone is perfectly fine. They raised a generation who became our adults and raised the next generation. But today, 4 or 5 members of a family, every person after 15, 16 works, there's still not enough at home. Everyone is crying. Why is there no barakah in our lives? Why is there no barakah in our time? I remember the time 2022 began. I still exactly remember the year 2022 began, and I was at a location. I was just thinking, driving here, where was I when 2022 began? You know, we're New Yorkers. We all know the ball drop that happens. You know where you are. And I still remember I was in Kentucky in my brother-in-law's place in Islamic Center of Elizabethtown for a program. I still remember the exact location. And I said, subhanAllah, within a few days, the entire year is gone. Gone. Why is there no barakah in our time? Why is there no barakah in our wealth? Why is there no barakah in the actions that we are doing, brothers and sisters? And we reflect back over our times to see where is Allah and Deen in the choices that we make. Even in our earning, even in our lives, if we have the major component of Allah missing, there can never be barakah in our lives. Brothers and sisters, the topic that we have tonight is that homes and houses are needs of all of ours. There is a place, there is a shelter that we have for all of us. There's a location that we have for all of us where we nourish ourselves and our families and our children. But if that environment and that nourishment is not with the commands of Allah, where Allah is happy with us, then how can we expect to raise a generation that will be obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And I go back to this point again, brothers and sisters, is that it's extremely, extremely important for us to make sure that what we provide ourselves through eating and through drinking and through sustaining and through living is in accordance of our deen and our religion. You know, I'm blessed to be with my parents. I live with my parents. I'm blessed to be in their company. And as elders, they always keep an eye on you. So I have 3 children, young children. So sometimes my children, they run around, and all children sometimes do wild things. And whenever I see my children do something which, is out of line, I always hear this line from my mother. And she says, Farhan, did you make sure that you were careful for what they ate from outside? For the effect of food in the lives of our children, the effect of the environment that we provide our children, the homes and the residence that we are providing, brothers and sisters. It is our responsibility to make sure that we provide everything to our children that will be able to protect their iman and their deen. I want to conclude with this, brothers and sisters, coming to the point of this very important presentation, and that is that for many of our elders sitting here, we, as I speak to them, and me as a person, of course, who have had the blessings of our elders and had the privilege to be in an Islamic country at my young age, we grew up in an environment where the most furthest that a child would do is that maybe they will not pray and they will not fast, but there was never a point that they would be away from their deen and their religion, meaning they would ever turn back from their religion. Today here in the West, we are raising a generation where the iman of your children is right at the verge of losing the iman of our children, brothers and sisters. Forgive me for saying this, but this is happening today. We're on the verge of losing the iman of our children. Where if we as parents and adults do not make the right choices, our children, may Allah forgive, can leave the fold of Islam. It is this close. It is this close for all of us that our children can go away. So as an adult community, as people of the ummah of the Prophet ﷺ, it is our responsibility that we protect them from all sides and all ways, that not even a hint of something that disobeys Allah should be in their lives. And amongst one of the things is the aspect of our homes. As the Nabi of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned, that from amongst the blessings of Allah, from amongst the khair from Allah, is to have a spacious home and a ride that is reliable to transport you from one place to the other. That's the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Alhamdulillah, with the efforts of our teachers, our scholars, with the ulama and scholars across the world, Guidance Residential has done works within the US and mashallah working across the nation now to provide the alternative for people that were never present for decades. And this is just not one, slide, but it took hours, and not even hours, but years of efforts of scholars to present something for us and for our generations to have resources that we can have things that are halal, Sharia compliant, and accepted in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because brothers and sisters, what we know from the Quran and the Sunnah is that there are two places in the entire Islam where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala announces a war against someone. Two places. Number one, where a person is involved in interest and usury. Things that are, conventional and things that are not Sharia compliant. Number one. And number two, when a person has hatred towards a friend of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Two places where Allah announces subhanahu wa ta'ala a direct war against someone. And how can anyone ever expect to win when you're standing against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And that's why, brothers and sisters, in the entire world, whenever you see a system, no matter how much it grows, if it is not through the conditions of our deen and the teachings of Islam, it can never be fruitful. There's always barakah and blessings in things that our deen guides us. There's always barakah and blessings. From the life of the Prophet ﷺ to the lives of Sahaba, we find that whenever there was things that they let go for the sake of Allah and found the ways of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Rasul ﷺ, there was always barakah and blessings in their lives. So brothers and sisters, let's go back and conclude my words. Is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with the blessing of Islam. And Islam is just not the things that we do in this masjid. The word La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. Usually in all masjids it's here. SubhanAllah, it's here. La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah is every masjid. When you get a chance, count the words in La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. There are 24 words, right? And these 24 words mean our 24 hours life, according to the commands of Allah and the way of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This La ilaha illallah is just not here to be printed in the masjid or to be said by our words, but it means to be lived in our lives. So when we leave this masjid and step outside, that La ilaha illallah is still a part of my life. When I go and make a business transaction, that La ilaha illallah is still there. When I'm living in a particular household, that La ilaha illallah is still there. When I'm making a business decision and endeavor, La ilaha illallah is still there. So we need to make sure that we live as Muslims and our lives are as Muslims. And when we make decisions according to the teachings of our deen, there will always be barakah and blessings. Because Allah promises through the way of Rasulullah ﷺ that whatever and whenever we make these transactions and do the actions, it is beneficial when it's Quran and Sunnah. And I want to conclude with this, that from amongst the things that we will be asked on the day of Qiyamah, amongst the questions of our entire lives that we will be asked, 2 out of the 5 questions is with regards to our monetary responsibility. Where did we earn and where did we spend? This is a question that Allah will question you on the day of Qiyamah. Sometimes we say, I'm not saying something is more expensive or less, but I have seen this, and forgive me, this is not to put down any specific culture or religious group, but you will find religious groups in America, not Muslims, others, that even if they would have to make or pay the double, as long as it does not fit their standards, they will never provide their children or their families. Because they understand the value of what their religion means to them and the identity that instills within the lives of their families and their children. As Muslims, it is our responsibility to instill within our children, to make sure that every single decision that they make is halal, right? I work with a lot of different, organizations and such as hospitals and chaplaincies. I was sitting with one of the head physicians of a hospital in Nassau County, and he said many Muslims who come into the hospital, they say, give us vegetarian or give us kosher. No one asks for halal. We as Muslims don't ask for our needs ourselves. We don't even know and we don't even realize that we could have what we want only if we ask for the alternatives. As Muslims, there are alternatives present to interest, to usury, to haram that's out there through sources like guidance and others that are providing us. just because there's a resource present there, right? I think it was a research, Samim bhai, a few years ago, that where I think 70-80% of the Muslims went a conventional route knowing that there's a halal alternative present there, right? Within the New York community itself. There were billions of dollars that were spent from the Muslim community acquiring homes, and major portion of them decided to go to a route that was not ethically accepted, subhanAllah. Knowing that this was not a big difference, but there was acceptable options present there. Brothers and sisters, this is not a gathering to sell you something. This is a gathering to remind you that Allah will question us for our decisions on the day of Qiyamah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask us that if something halal was present and something acceptable was there, then why did we not make the right choice in our lives? What answer will we have in front of Allah on the day of Qiyamah? Just because I did not know, knowing is no excuse in the eyes of Allah on the day of Qiyamah. Forgetfulness is an excuse. So that's why, brothers and sisters, we're here tonight to explain and to mention to you that not only our ibadah, not only our dua, not only our salawat, not only our prayers, but every single ma'amalat and transactions that we have in our lives should be caters from the light of Quran and the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the deen and the religion that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam left behind us is as bright as the daylight itself. There's no dark parts in our deen. Our deen is beautiful, it's complete, it's absolute, it's perfect till the day of Qiyamah. Al-yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum wa atmamtu alaykum ni'mati wa raditu lakum al-islam deena are amongst the last ayats of the Quran. Not the last, amongst the last verses of the Quran revealed to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam on the day of Hajjatul Wida, 2 months and few days before he passed away. And this ayat of the Quran mentions the perfection of Islam, the completion of the deen, and the selection of the religion of Islam for the humanity till the day of Qiyamah. And that perfection exists today and will remain till the day of Qiyamah. No one can say Islam was 1400 years ago. What do you know about stem cells today? What do you know about artificial intelligence today? Islam gives us those answers today. Islam already gives us those answers. And it will give us answer till the day of Qiyamah because it is the most absolute perfect religion sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the people till the day of Qiyamah. With regards to the advancements of finances and everything that occurs, our deen has the solution. Our deen has the proper way for us. So with that being said, brothers and sisters, my humble request to all of you is that when we are making, or we know our family members, our brothers or sisters or anyone, when they are making these decisions of the largest expense, I guess, that anyone has in their life is buying their homes, right? I think that's what it is that please make the decision where you're making Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam happy for you on the day of Qiyamah. You make that decision that if you were to be asked on the day of Qiyamah, then inshallah we can say to Allah that, oh Allah, I did my due diligence. I made sure that I made a right decision. And oh Allah, I made sure that my money, my wealth, and my family was there at a location which was not displeasing to you, oh Allah. With that being said, we ask Allah to allow us a life that is upon the Quran and the beautiful sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to make decisions that are right and correct. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala open our hearts towards righteousness, towards the Quran and the beautiful sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. With that, I'm going to pass the mic to Brother Semi. You're right. And he has a beautiful and very important presentation. It's not a very long presentation, but it's a presentation that is very, very helpful for all of us to understand the methods, the way that Islamic finance works in America, and what alternative methods that we have to make the right decisions towards making the decisions of choosing our residence and our homes. Without further ado, inshallah, Brother Sami.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers. Once again, I'm Sami Kabir. I have been with Guidance Residential for about 11 years. And I'm here with my colleague, Mohammed Chaudhry. Mufti Farhan, thank you so much for your beautiful bayan. I'm not going to take time. It will be probably about 10 minutes. But what I want to start with to let you know that we are not a bank, and banks are not the solution. There is a reason why we are here at this masjid. If we were a bank or we were dealing with a bank, we wouldn't be here, and I would not have the courage to stand before you and speak with you. So first of all, we are not a bank. So Guidance Residential started a journey that's been uncompromising, and we have been in this journey for, let me just do this, hold on. Okay, it's fine. Actually, the cable is short, so I'm going to stand here and I'll go ahead and speak. So we started 20 years ago, and we started in 3 states first. It's fine, it's fine, it's fine. So today, as you can see here on the slide, that we launched in 2002, and we are right now in more than 30 states, and we have financed over $10 billion, alhamdulillah. And we also have served about, okay. We have served about 35,000 families, alhamdulillah, so far. Now, who is Guidance Residential? We are owned by our parent company known as Guidance Capital. And as you can see here, Guidance Capital started a faithful values established by the founding families. It's about 3 families, Syria, Lebanese, and from Malaysia. So 3 families started Guidance Capital nearly about 60 years ago. And the main business is international finance services, investment management, real estate, luxury, home products, and global industries. So we operate in 27 countries, and right now we are in 77 offices throughout the globe. Now, Guidance Residential is the only Islamic home financing provider in the USA whose Sharia-compliant home financing program is approved by these leading global scholars of Islamic financial law. Now, as you can see on the left, Sheikh Yusuf Talal de Lorenzo, who is from the United States. Then you can see Sheikh Nizam Yaqubi from Bahrain, Dr. Muhammad Daud Abu Bakr from Malaysia, Chairman of IOFI, Justice Mohammed Taqi Usmani from Pakistan, Dr. Muhammad Al-Ghari, Saudi Arabia, Dr. Imran Ashraf Usmani from Pakistan, and Dr. Abdul Sattah Abu Ghudda Rahmatullahi Alayhi from Syria. Now, the vision was to create a financial product for the Muslim Ummah. And as you can see, so here in USA, we are operating right in the bottom, Guidance Residential, where we only finance residential homes from 1 family to up to 4 family and condominiums. And then we also have Guidance Home Services, where we have network of professional real estate agents throughout the nation who we have vetted and made sure that they understand our values. So they actually are the ones that we network with, and we help you once you find a house. We recommend you someone who actually can help you find a property. Then we have something you see, it says Shaza. Shaza is a 5-star hotel that you will find most of the Middle East, in Africa and Europe. It's a hotel industry, hospitality, that's owned by Capital Guidance, where you can go and stay. And if you have been in Medina Munawwara, you will see right in front of Medina Munawwara, there's a hotel called Shaza, and also in Makkah as well. Then we have Darul Tamlik, and Guidance Investments. If you have been to Washington Dorf project, you probably have seen that's also have been built by our sister company called Madison Marquette. Now, we have fatwas here on our website. If you visit our site, you will see we have the fatwa on our main program in Arabic, English, and as well as in Urdu. And who is Amja? Right here, this screen is something important to share with you. Amja ranked us the most permissible path to home ownership. And back in 2014, Amja invited all the other companies who actually provide Islamic home financing, and 99%, all of them except Guidance, is owned by a bank. A lot of Muslims would call Amja and ask them that, is it permissible for me to deal with them, or deal with who should I deal with? So because they used to get so much of phone calls and inquiries, they decided to call all the organizations and provide their documentation and also present their business. And once they have done that, after 6 months of studies, they have gave the ruling that Guidance is the most permissible path to deal with, because we are not owned by a bank, we are not an entity. Everybody else is owned by a bank, and anyone who's a subsidiary of a bank, it's the same, you are indirectly dealing with riba. Now, we also have received a lot of media coverage back in 2009. Any one of you have been around since in 2007, 8, and 9, there was a mortgage meltdown because of subprime mortgages. Guidance Residential was the only company was growing, and our business was like never before. We were not affected. Why? Because of the ethical principles that we follow and the way we finance our customers' homes were not affected. So CNN, PBS, Al Jazeera, they came to our head office and they took interviews and they tried to understand how our programs are so different where all the other banking institutions were shutting down. By the way, we have a signing sheet here, and Mohammed Chaudhry can pass this along. If you would like to know more about our program and how to qualify, we will be happy to help you, inshallah, and we'll contact you. Something very proud for us to share, that Guidance is the only Muslim-owned company has provided over $2 million to the Muslim community. And these are all the organizations that we have been working with, and we continue to work with them. Next weekend, if you are planning to go to Chicago at MassCon, we will be there. We are the largest sponsor for that event. We are always there at ICNA, ISNA, and any event and any one of the organizations are having an event, we are there. Alhamdulillah, we try to sponsor the event and the cause. So what is riba? Real quick. Riba is interest that someone gives you a loan and they charge you a profit out of, right? And that we already know, because money has no intrinsic value. Money is just a means of a transaction. You need to buy something. For example, this microphone in my hand, if you want to buy it, you would pay an amount of $1 for the exchange of the microphone. But if I give you $10 and I ask you, give me $12 back, you would ask me why that extra $2 for. So money has no intrinsic value. It's a means of transaction. But what is permissible? Trade is permissible according to Islam. Loan is permissible without any profit. That's for charity purpose. And also trade is permissible, and buy and selling is permissible. So the methods of Islamic financing according to the Sharia contract is one, in the most used here in the USA is the musharaka. There are banks who try to do musharaka, that's purchase and resell, and ijara, lease to own, but that actually does not work because you have to be a non-bank entity to do a musharaka program, because you have to be a co-owner with the house owner, meaning buyer, that's you. So the instrument of Islamic finance is the musharaka, but there are different types of a musharaka. So we use the one that's asset-based musharaka, which is known as shirakatul milk. And shiraka is, there are two types. One is shirakatul aqd and shirakatul milk, where the shirakatul aqd is a joint ventureship where you have partnership in goodwill, partnership in services, and partnership in trade. But the one that we use is shirakatul milk, which is the optional. Now, shirakatul milk has two kinds, optional and compulsory. The one that's optional is where you choose to co-own and buy an asset with another partner. The other one is compulsory, where siblings will inherit a property after the parents passes away, and how one sibling will buy the house or the share from the other sibling. So that's when the sharakat al-milk is used. So we already have established that we are not a bank, and the banks propagate usury. And we are not a bank, except Guidance Residential. All other organizations are banks, and they deal with riba. They are value neutral. Banks finance liquor stores, casinos, gun stores, and any illicit business. That we already know because they are value neutral. They do not care about values and social responsibilities. So Muslims must not deal with riba-based entities, and Muslims must not get into riba. And the benefits of this Musharaka program is it's independently endorsed by Sharia Supervisory Board, consists of the world-renowned scholars. It's a non-recourse contract. Non-recourse contract means that if you ever go through foreclosure or eminent domain, Guidance will never come after your other assets. You could be owning some more other properties, but we will not look at them. You may have your college funds, 401k savings. We will not look at that. If the property is foreclosed and is sold for a loss, we keep the loss in our book. So we do not come after you. You also have a no prepayment penalty. Although right now majority of the banks do not practice no prepayment penalty, but 20 years ago when we started with a no prepayment penalty. You can pay off, you can buy our share out anytime without a question. Then we have shared risk. In case there is a natural disaster, right now there is more natural disasters than before. If the insurance company does not cover all the loss, let's say they cover 80% of the loss and 20% of the expenses are still not paid and you had to get it fixed, Guidance will come in, and at that time, if we are 60-40, we have 60% share, we will pay 60% of that unpaid loss. You will not see that with the conventional banks. And during the eminent domain, if the government or the city would like to use their property for the public benefit, and they will pay you a price that does not cover the balance of the mortgage, regular bank will ask you to do a short sale, and once you do the short sale, whatever the amount is paid by the city goes directly to the bank and you get nothing, and you're forced to sell the house. But in that event, if you have a mortgage with Guidance Residential, we actually will take the money from the city and we'll split between us. If we are at that time 60-40 partner, we'll keep 60, you get 40% of your equity goes to you. And even though it does not cover the balance that we have, we will not come after you. So these are the benefits you have for being a non-recourse. Then shared risk and cap late payment fee. If you're ever late, regular bank will charge you 5% and it compounds, but we only charge maximum $50, whatever it costs us to remind you, send you an email or call you or maintain your account, because we have to maintain the taxes and the homeowner's insurance. This is a simple payment structure. You probably want to know how much it cost you. So this is an example of $100,000 for 15 years at a profit rate of 5%. And the payments are scheduled like this. If you start with $100,000, as you can see, you make a monthly payment of $790 every single month. So $790 every single month. But out of the $790, $374 will go towards your share and $416 will go towards our profit. And then you increase your share 20.33%. If it's 180 payments, so you calculate that way. And as you can see, our profit every month goes down. 415, 413, 399, 379, and the rest of the money of the payment goes towards your share. If you maintain 180 payment after 15 years, we will make a profit of $42,000 from you for that $100,000. With that, I'm actually going to finish here. I wanted to go real quick, but if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Mohammed Chaudhry is here. You have signed your name, and his flyers are outside, and his business cards. Our office used to be right here on Jamaica Avenue. We are no longer there. We moved to Westbury, 1400 Old Country Road. And plus, we are always here. We are just a phone call away. We speak all the languages. We have colleagues who speak Bangla, English. I'm from Bangladesh. I speak Bangla. Mohammed is from Bangladesh. He speaks Bangla. We have colleagues who speaks every language. If you need to speak Arabic or Hindi, Urdu, whatnot. I know over here everybody is from Bangladesh. No worries. But with that, thank you so much. If you have any questions and you would like to stay here, I'm here until your questions are answered. Yes.
How do you come up with how much profit you want to make, like 5%, for example, you showed? How it is decided, this percentage is profit?
Sure. Very good. So how do we determine the profit? So we determine the profit based on the market. So right now, if we charge you 5%, we know that we can go sell our share to our investor at a 5%. And if the investor says that, right now the market is 7%, I don't want it, then, we cannot sell our share, right? So we try to be in the benchmark. So for example, if you were to go to a bank and, Bank of America is charging you whatever the percentage, right? We try to be as close to whatever the going market. Why? We try to do the approach of rent at the beginning. 20 years ago, when we were planning this program, we were thinking of following the rent model. And the rent model is how much right now? A 3-bedroom house with a living room downstairs with 2 bathrooms, how much is going to be? $4,000, $5,000, right? Right now. 20 years ago, it was probably $1,500 or $1,800, right? So as you can see, the rent model is disadvantageous to the homeowners if you're buying, because it changes. And also, we could not determine if one house here in Jamaica and right down the hillside, we would be able to charge the same, because so the rent model did not work. So we decided that, okay, we are going to do what the current market is here in the United States or here in New York, whatever everybody else is used to paying with a regular bank, we are going to try to stay the same, so at least Muslims will be able to afford going through the Islamic finance.
Two questions.
Yes.
First of all, you said the other company owned by banks. Who are the other companies?
Well, other companies you can hear is UIF known. There's a subsidy of University Bancorp. So University Bancorp is a Jewish-owned bank. They are based in Michigan, Dearborn Street, and they have regular checking accounts. Ijara is actually a broker. So Ijara, they are not even a bank. They're a broker. So if you have a mortgage with Chase Bank, they will say, I'll convert it for you. And you still will see on your credit, your loan is still with Chase Bank. And you still have the same promissory note. If you go to the public record, you will see.
How you differ from the Izara or UIF and the guidance?
Okay, so Guidance Residential is not a bank. So whenever you have to be a bank, you have to follow the federal government regulations, which you have to deal with riba, and you only can give loan. Banks by design, I would like you to Google the chapter 15 of the U.S. law. The U.S. law says 15 says that banks are only supposed to lend. They only can lend, and they cannot do anything else other than lending. Because we are not a bank, we actually can create a LLC structure with you. So we create a real LLC document, and then that LLC is co-owner with you. A bank can never create a LLC and give you a loan. They just cannot simply do that. Otherwise, every bank will start giving you loan and you have to sign LLC papers. You cannot. So you will never see it. So all the other organization you can talk about, La Riba, Devon Bank, all these banks are actually owned by a bank. So when the scholars reviewed the document, and feel free to review their documents, and you will see it's a pure promissory note. It's interest bearing, it's a lending and borrowing agreement. So you will not see a co-ownership. Now, for last 2 years, they all realized that, you know what, Musharaka program is the right one from the day one guidance is following. Let's create a co-ownership structure. So they have done that. But what happens is that they just cannot create a LLC. Whenever you are a bank, you cannot create an LLC. They say, you know what, you have to do LLC with guidance, but with us you don't have to, but it's the same contract. But as a Muslim, you have to understand that a bank can never be a partner with you, a co-owner with you. And if you are a co-owner, then you're also co-owner with their business. Then they will say, oh, no, you're not. There's a separation, but there's no separation because you cannot have LLC. So we have a lot of videos, we have a lot of documentation, and we'll be happy to go one by one. If you have more questions about how different it is, we are happy to go over with everything we do, inshallah.
And the second thing, the auto loan or something.
Yes.
This is the main factor with so many people. I'm talking from the experience, just we push to the guidance. But whenever they go, because everybody wants to see everything's one single basket. So guidance loan here, and the auto loan is the Chase Bank, other auto loan is the Citibank. But why the guidance is not
doing the auto loan? Yeah, so the question is why guidance is not providing auto loan. Unfortunately, auto loan is very, very tricky and it's not Sharia compliant. Here's why. Let's say guidance decides to help you with the auto loan. If you default and you're not able to make the payment, how guidance will be able to recoup? They have to, it's called impounding. Regular banks, they come and take your car away. So that is the problem. So taking the car away is not Sharia compliant. So that's where the issue is. So it's very difficult. However, Guidance Residential has a next 5-year plan and 10-year plan. I'm happy to share with you within the next 5 years, inshallah, we are looking to come up with a student loan. Something we have been working on. We have a department where all they are looking into providing different other products. So inshallah, in the next 10 years or so, Guidance has some other products for the Muslims to invest into. Anybody, you decide to invest in a Sharia compliant manner, you don't have to go and look at the Wall Street and all those, and you have to worry. So I'm not at the luxury to share a lot, but I can tell you that the next product that we are actually coming up with, inshallah, is going to be a student loan that's really going to help a lot. And then there are some other financial products that Guidance is coming up with. We do have Guidance Mutual, which is insurance, but it's on an institutional level, not for the regular homeowners, because there's still some elements of riba. We are very careful. You have to understand, I'm standing here at the masjid. Guidance Residential, the founder 60 plus years ago, when they started with something called value. And 20 years ago, when Dr. Muhammad Hamur stepped into USA and he wanted to provide a solution, there were already banks were already doing somewhat of a Islamic finance. The choice was to do it right, and we spent $25 million and used 18 different law firms just to get this program started. So we are very careful of what type of product that we want to provide, because we are not looking for profit. If we are looking for profit, we will be starting every business possible, but we are careful. And looks like the brothers, yes.
Home financing, one question.
Sure.
How was Shaq mentioned earlier, knowingly, 80% of the people still invested in conventional loan instead of the guidance. What's the was the key differences there? Why people are still choosing conventional loan over guidance? I've also heard that Islamic financing costs a little bit more than the conventional loan. Why is that?
Okay, so there are a few factors. Number one, we haven't done our work much. After how long? Probably a few years. I stepped here again talking about guidance. Last time I was here downstairs about back in 2017 or 18. As you can see, we are hiring. We need more people. That's number one. We only have reached in New York about 5% of the Muslim market, meaning that 5%, meaning that that there are Muslims who are actually purchasing homes. They are getting mortgages from regular banks. 95% of them, only 5% of those who are getting mortgages, they're coming to guidance because they are faith conscious. Now, we are no one to judge, right? Somebody can say, you know what, it's going to cost me $100 less with Chase Bank. I'm going to go. Oh, UIF says that there is no LLC fee, but you charge LLC fee. UIF guy convinced me. Now, the problem is, UIF, they don't have LLC. Our customers don't understand that because a bank can never create an LLC. So they take that and they twist it and they just for the purpose of business. So there are people are out there, Muslims are not educated. I can sit here and talk about all the legal stuff that we do and half of the things are not going to make sense. So yes, we do our best to educate. And the other thing is that we go through a lot. You know what? The son now graduated from school. He has a $100,000 IT job. Father worked all his life, and now he wants to buy a house because he wants to get the son married. Because the mortgage is in son's name, son says, Baba, I'm getting a great deal. I am so smart. I'm in IT. I searched up. There's a company who's giving me 5.75%. Guidance is 6.25%. I don't believe it, Dad. You see what I'm saying? It's our responsibility that we need to show that, you know what is riba to our family, to our youth. That's what he was talking about.
Yes, I understand that you're educating people and all that stuff. So, but for those people that are faith conscious and they're trying to come to guidance, don't you think it's penalizing them now, pay for that extra, whatever the percentage is, and just because they want to practice and they want to be better Muslim, now they have to pay more towards their mortgage.
So we are not doing it purposely, meaning that our pricing is not purposefully high because we are halal. I just want to clear that up. Because of our investors decided to purchase this contract, which is risky. As you realize that we share loss. We don't practice like the regular bank. Regular bank, you don't pay, they don't care. They're going to take the house, they're going to take everything you own. They don't care. Because we are risky, it is an expensive program for anybody who's involved on the other side, right? From the investor's point of view. So it is a risky product, similar to an example of halal meat, right? So yes, it is expensive, but unfortunately, we do our best. I mean, we struggle with our back office. We go to our CFO and we say, here's a customer, a husband died of COVID and she's looking to buy a house and we have to do whatever we can. And guess what? We never get a pushback from our management. They say, okay, whatever we can do, this is the best we can do. So we shrink our margin. We have a flat fee of $1,195. Majority of the time, discounts here and there and everything, that's gone. And then the profit rate that we charge, we go our bare minimum. Why we're doing this? Because we want to encourage the Muslims to come. And so, to some family, $75 a month could make a big difference. And to some, unfortunately, to some brothers, even a $200 would not make a difference, but it's the shaitan's arrogance comes into play and says that, you know what, $200, who's going to give me $200 free? And it's the same thing. It's the compromise, is the self-deception actually comes into play. But you know what? Allah is the one who actually guides everyone, right? So, yeah, sure.
I have a question. I heard this when guidance finance, after 2 months, 3 months, they sell the loan in a regular bank.
Yes, absolutely, but we don't sell to the regular bank, by the way. So what we do, we sell. So every month we do about 100 million, 150 million, 200 million, depending on the market, right? So when we use our funds to buy these homes, right? We cannot continuously buy. Our parent company is worth $10, $12 billion, and we already funded $10 billion. So we don't have unlimited funds. So 20 years ago, when we started, we used 18 different law firms and the scholars to go back and first when we approached Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae 20 years ago, they're the investors, secondary investor. If you understand the mortgage market, primary market is where the banks deal with the consumers. Secondary investor where the banks sell their note and the loans to the investor, Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, Ginnie Mae. These are the government chartered organizations, and their investors, they keep buying. And then after they buy, they package these notes for teacher union, pension funds, like in Germany, globally. Let's say the teachers of Germany, they are retired and they have some pension funds. Their pension funds are invested into this Freddie Mac's, Fannie Mae's product, which are mortgage-backed securities, right? So I just gave you that background. Now, when guidance went, we said that we want to have a co-ownership agreement with our homeowner. We want it to buy it too, because it's the same thing. It's finance for a house, but the agreement you are buying with the regular bank is based on lending and borrowing, interest-bearing. But we have some stakes, and we are co-owners. We are going to share some loss. They said, get out of here. That's not possible. You're gonna be, you're gonna be. That's when we decided that we cannot be a bank, and the bank can never own. So we decided to stay as a private equity investor. So we buy the houses as a pool every month. Then we sell the package stake, our share, to Freddie Mac, and they buy it. And when they buy it, that's it. But we are always in the picture. So by law, we have to send you in a letter saying that, hey, brother, we sold our stake to investor Freddie Mac or Fannie Mae, but you are still dealing with us because we are co-owner through the LLC. So we are still making our profit, and then we are giving separating our profit between us and our investors. So we are buying a halal product. It's like Sagar Chinese is selling halal meat to a non-Muslim. And the non-Muslim, his money could be whatever, but they're just selling a halal product. So we are similarly selling our contract to our investor.
You are selling or you are taking money from that?
Okay, so Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae can never give money. You can Google, they are barred from lending. They are only investor.
So what is the deal with you and Freddie Mac?
So they just buy our share.
They buy your share?
They don't give us money. They cannot give us money. Why? Because they are not allowed. The Congress created them to purchase stakes on a home financing, any type of a contract. They only can purchase, and then they package, and then they actually do those investments like mortgage.
When you deal with the Freddie Mac or against the things, there is the riba involved.
There's no riba involved. It's like I just gave an example. So let me give you another example so you will understand. Let's say you and I decide to start a hotel business, right? Okay? And we decide our hotel business will have no pork, no alcohol, no gambling, everything will be Sharia compliant, right? We agree, okay. But I also have something in our writing, in our agreement, that at any time I decide to sell my share of the business to anybody I want. And you're okay with that. But that investor, whoever buys, cannot change the way we are doing our business in a halal way. Can never change the structure. It's going to remain as is. Now, I go and find a investor who just buys, who's not giving me money, never gave me money, because I already invested first. It's my money. I invested with you. Then I sell my stake, my share, to that investor. And that investor has no rights, because we already have the agreement that the investor is going to be just silent, buys my share, and benefits from the profit that's coming in. So I did not take any money, interest. Rather, he is getting a benefit of something halal, even though he could be Muslim or non-Muslim. So that's the agreement we have. So we only can sell. And Freddie Mac never gives money to anybody. Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, they never give money to anybody. You can Google that up.
How does the money come back to you for the next investment?
I just gave the example, right? So if I sell my share, I get the money.
You sell the
Yeah. Freddie Mac. Freddie Mac's, we sell, because we use our money, so we buy the share, then we sell the share to Freddie Mac. So when we sell the share to Freddie Mac, they have to give us the money because we are selling our stake, our share. Yeah.
Never buy, but
No, he was saying taking a loan or riba if we have any loan. Yeah.
So, Brother Sami,
Yes.
is there anything like, right now, I know the credit score, you go with the credit score for the risks, right? Anyway, in future, change other way, you can check the risk.
So here's the thing. A lot of people think that having a credit is getting involved with riba. Actually, that's not the case. If you need to build your credit, you can go to a regular bank and open a credit card, even a secure credit card. You're using your own money. But just by charging the card every single month, you're building a credibility. Your information gets recorded at the credit bureaus. You don't have to pay interest to build a credit. This is something, yeah, sure. Assalamu alaikum. So you don't have to build, you don't have to pay interest to build a credit.
I know that. You are not bank. You can check the risks in other way.
Maybe inshallah in the future, probably, as guidance is, creating new products. So hopefully inshallah, but so far, that's the only way we can make sure someone has a habit of making payment. Yeah.
One last question.
Sure.
Do you have any mandatory, that you have to put the down payment 5%, 10%, 20%? Is there any?
No, this is not a mandatory. It's everything based on your income, your ability, and what you are buying. Everything is based off of that. Yeah. We also have a program where 3%, but here you will not find a house that you will qualify for with a 3% down. Any other questions? Thank you so much. Jazakallah khair. I really want to thank the brothers who actually stayed behind to accommodate the event. And we're going to help, inshallah, give you some hand. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.